All right, Nick, let's talk about the Detroit Lions, 6-2, coming fresh off of a bye, fresh off of another big win against the Raiders on Monday Night Football. The team is riding high, but what else happened to the Lions over the bye? They're getting healthy and they're getting some key players back, specifically at the running back position. They've had two good running backs all season, the young rookie Jahmyr Gibbs, who has gotten better as the seasons progress, and also they've had the veteran David Montgomery. But now that both of these running backs are back, there's an interesting question being posed as to how will the carries be split? Who is going to be the starter? And I think Dan Campbell has an interesting solution to this unique situation. Nick, let's get on into the article and we will talk about it on the other side. This, of course, is from over on NBC Sports. It says, for much of the season, the Lions haven't needed to decide how to split snaps between running back David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs because the two haven't been healthy at the same time. But that's about to change. The Lions head coach Dan Campbell says both players will get plenty of opportunities. Montgomery appears likely to return from his rib injury this Sunday against the Chargers, and Gibbs is coming off of his best game last week against the Raiders. Campbell was asked today how he'll split the workload going forward. He said, we know what David can do, but we know that Gibbs has gotten better every week, so we're going to ask those guys to do the things they do well and that help our offense move the football, Campbell said. I don't think necessarily sitting here talking to you right now that I see Gibbs getting 65 plays. I don't see that, but he's going to get his fair share now. We know what he can be, and he's growing, and I think it'll be a little bit of a by committee approach, and we'll make sure to get these guys their touches. Gibbs will definitely get his touches. So, Nick, interesting approach. Apparently, Jahmyr Gibbs, the young rookie, has proved himself worthy of getting some touches. Maybe not 65 plays in a game, but he has gotten deemed worthy to have some split touches with the veteran David Montgomery. Running back by committee going forward, and as we always say, we think this is one of the best approaches for a team mentality going forward as how you can split the running back situation going forward. But Nick, I'm excited. I want to know what your thoughts are on this. But before we get into that, Lions fans, big game versus the Chargers this weekend. Let us know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts? What are the score going to be? Lions versus Chargers this weekend in the comment section below. But Nick, what do you think about the Lions, and what do you think about this new running back by committee plan?
Well, there's a lot to unpack here, and I think it's all generally good. And when you look at the strategy with Jahmyr Gibbs, it was kind of questionable early on. Obviously, he's had some injuries he had to fight through, but he's obviously a very talented guy. A lot of fantasy owners I know have been very disappointed with the lack of touches but Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's steadily gotten more and more. And prior to his breakout game against the Raiders, he had averaged about 10 carries a game in the 5 games he appeared in against the Raiders. Obviously, 26 carries, I believe $150 on the ground. Dominant performance. So this is one of those moves where people forget this about sometimes in the NFL, and it's the same way in college football. It's the same thing in the NFL. A lot of the game plan and personnel package and play design happens in the offseason and through the summer. During training camp, you then install the basic plays for all your players, bring in the rookies, see which guys are going to win what spots, and then week by week, you make small adjustments to your game plan depending on the other team, how they're doing, injuries on both sides, things like that. So up until the bye week, through the regular season, teams aren't making drastic decisions to their strategy. The bye week gives them an opportunity to take a step back, self-scout a little bit, evaluate their personnel and what they're doing, and then make adjustments as needed. That's what smart teams do. That's why you hear about teams making big runs out of the bye week. The Kansas City Chiefs, for example, do that all the time. Andy Reid has made a living out of it. The Bill Belichick era, Tom Brady Patriots were phenomenal at it. All the best teams use the bye week very efficiently to make smart moves to adjust their allocation of personnel and strategy going forward. And that's exactly, I think, what we're seeing from the Lions. So credit to Campbell, Johnson, the entire coaching staff for making this move. But I think there's another part of this that I really like. You talk about slow walking Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit to get him more touches. That reminds me of how Alabama uses their running backs, and Jahmyr Gibbs obviously coming from Alabama. Alabama notoriously goes week to week in terms of who's going to be their number one guy. They have a bevy of running backs they use. Some guy gets 10 carries one week, the next week he might get 2. Their theory is that late in the season, when the games really matter, their running backs are fresh and ready to dominate while other teams are not. It seems like Campbell's using that same strategy here, and that's what Jahmyr Gibbs is used to, and I think they'll give them a big advantage down the stretch, because right now the Lions are looking really good, laudable, winnable games coming up, but I tell you what, they're at a point right now. You look at the Eagles, 8-1. You look at the 49ers, 5-3. The NFC is certainly the top of the NFC is wide open. A strong finish for Detroit can put them in a great position for a playoff run, and there's nothing you need more than a playoff run than a strong running game. I love the strategy here, both for understanding what Jahmyr Gibbs is familiar with at Alabama, but also using the bye week effectively.
Yeah, Nick, and I think what you're saying is absolutely true. Detroit needs a strong finish to the season, and like you said, you look at the schedule, it looks very good, very favorable for them down the stretch. You got the Chargers, I think that's a very winnable game. You got the Bears twice, definitely a winnable game. Packers, Saints, Broncos, all winnable games. Vikings just got a whole lot easier now that Kirk Cousins is out for this season. I think week 17 is probably your biggest test against the Cowboys, and that's a team that I think you can go in and you could probably go toe-to-toe with a little bit. If you can get past that Cowboys defense, I think that you're making yourself look. I don't see why there's a point they come out with no more than potentially 2 losses in this next stretch of games. I think that this Detroit team could finish the season, who knows, like 16-1, somewhere around there, or excuse me, 16-2, 15-3, somewhere around there. Yeah, I think this is a really, really strong Detroit team.
Your criminal justice degree is showing there with that math. Got to give you a lot of credit on that one there. Oh, my goodness. But, I agree with you 100%, because you look at their schedule, right? It's Minnesota was looking terrifying, really, the way they've been playing, but now that Cousins is out, who knows with the quarterback position. Dallas is Dallas. You really don't know what you get week to week, and the rest of their schedule is pretty easy. Looking down the stretch here, and if you're a Lions fan, how good do you have to feel coming out of the bye, looking at the situation in the NFC? The 49ers look beatable, the Eagles look beatable, and the one thing that the Lions could have done to potentially screw it up is to not use the bye week effectively. They're not doing that. They put themselves in a strong position the rest of the way, and I think the Lions are continuing to not just ride their momentum, but build off of it, and that should be a scary sign for the rest of the NFC.